Welcome back to the show. Hope everyone is doing well. Into week 2 of 2025, or the first official week. So it's going to be a wee bit of a weird episode. Not because of the topic that I'm covering off, but this is the day before I am attempting to bench press 100 kilos 100 times and then running 100 kilometres all within the same day. But when you hear this, it's going to be released after. So it's Saturday the 11th. I'm doing the challenge on the 12th, and this episode comes out on Monday the 13th. So it's going to be quite interesting to see if I have done it or if I've not. Now, it's weird, like when you... I'll do another episode on like why I'm doing it, because it probably deserves its own episode. But I do want to talk about, before actually doing the challenge, I want to set some expectations. So the why and all that sort of stuff, I'll cover that off in another episode, but ultimately it's just doing something that kind of scares me a wee bit. And you might think, well, why do it then? And honestly, the main reason is because challenging our resilience or challenge our mental strength starts small. So for most of us, that looks like speaking to someone you don't know, making eye contact, going into a new environment, a new job, whatever it may be. And then over time, those things that on paper don't see that big of a deal, or seem as big of a deal at the start, don't become as big of a deal. And if I slap this in the head when it comes to fitness has never been something I've been anxious or scared of, right? And that being said, I know a lot of people do have anxiety around walking through the gym doors and getting into the gym. And that's why I do this. This is why I do the podcast. It's why I put out as much free content as I can to try and convince as many people as I can to go into the gym, because the gym is way more than just building muscle, losing fat and all that sort of stuff. I honestly stand by the point that every single person on this planet, regardless of circumstance, should have an element of resistance training. Now, resistance training doesn't have to be in a gym. It can be at home or whatever it is, but most people are put off because they think, nah, that's not for me, or I could never do that. And that's ultimately where this sort of challenges came from. I've always watched like Fergus Crawley's videos and different YouTube documentary series on people doing these ultra runs, and it never crossed my mind to do one. I was just fascinated with the whole process, and I've been the guy that builds strength. I'm the guy that gets strong. And that's what I do for my clients: improve their quality of life, range of motion, mobility, all while building strength, which ultimately builds muscle, and in return the body composition changes as well. But this past year, or the year of 2024, was the year I started running more. And some of you guys might not know this, but I started my fitness journey as a runner, and it was because of the competitiveness of 100 people starting a race and there had only been one winner, and I loved that. So I started running, and then just through social media pressure, I wanted to be bigger. And as I got bigger, the compliments came in, and that feed my ego. And that's ultimately what I enjoyed. But now that I'm 31, turning 32, I picked up running, and I liked it. But the most I've ever ran was a 10K up until Christmas Day, when I ran a half marathon in Metcons, by the way. It was not as bad as what you'd think, if I'm being honest. And the whole 100k thing seems to be or running 100 kilometres seems to be a more popular feat. And I found myself saying, I could never do that. And I had to check myself. I was like, whoa, why am I saying that to myself? It's like, am I confident in my capability to do that? Yes. So why is it automatically the default setting in my mind, I could never do that? It's because I'm a runner. It's because I'm the guy that builds strength. If that was something like a 250 kilo deadlift, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to start working towards that. The 300 kilo deadlift was a goal that I written down last year that I never properly pursued, so ultimately failed. But I thought in December, I was thinking about this, and I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And one of the reasons I'm not doing it, or one of the reasons I'm not building a training plan to do it, well, I don't know. I think the longer being fully transparent, the way that I'm going about this is fucking ridiculous, right? I don't recommend it to anyone. Now, I'm regularly lifting weights, and I'm confident in how my body feels. I'm confident in how strong I am, and I'm confident in my running capabilities up until the 10k to a half marathon, right? Beyond that is the unknown. And realistically, I should train beyond that. I should train my gut. I should train the fuel that I should have. I should train just my body being able to be running a longer distance. And that would be the smart thing to do. But I know personally, selfishly, that although this is something that I want to achieve, it's more for the mental resilience. And I want to see where, because I had that initial thought of, oh, I couldn't do that, I want to see what happens when I get into the pain cave, probably by the 2.5 hours, 3 hour mark. I reckon I could do a marathon, like, not easy, but I know I could stay on my feet for time and get a marathon done. Beyond that is the unknown. Beyond that is going to be the testing point and the breaking point of, is it my body that's going to give up, or is it my mentality that's going to give up? And 9 times out of 10, or majority, in fact, all the time, your body's physical capabilities is dictated by your mental outlook. And I've not really challenged that much. I've challenged it through High Rocks or High Rocks training, should I say. I've challenged it by doing erg work, which I said I would never do. I never say I'd go on a skier. I don't enjoy the skier or the rower. And I told myself I didn't enjoy running, and I've managed to find and flip that on its head, and I've started to enjoy running, believe it or not. So this is going to be interesting predictions to see what happens tomorrow. I am going to finish this. But even saying that out loud, there's a voice inside my head that says, Dale, what happens if you don't? Like, don't be silly. You've only ran a half marathon. You've not even benched 100 kilos 100 times. I think the most kind of volume I've maybe benched in one session is about maybe 4 to 6,000, something like that in the last 6 months. And I'm going for 10,000 kilo of volume in the bench press. Weirdly enough, that doesn't faze me, because I'll get that done whether it's in 20 minutes or whether it's in an hour. It's the 100k that I'm like, I'm doing this. But at the same time, even saying it out loud, I almost like, no, go back and edit and cut that bit out of the podcast. So I wanted to say that at the start of this podcast, because I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. And by the time you guys watching this, most likely I've posted something on Instagram to see how it's went. And the next episode, I'll talk about what the hell happened on the day. I'll walk you through the game plan or what it takes to run 100k. I'm not fit to talk about that, if I'm being honest. All I'll do is walk you through my experience and why I finished it and what I've done feeling wise, or maybe it's why I failed it, but we're not gonna let that negativity creep in. Anyway, let's get into today's topic, one that I hold close to my heart. So, is fat loss overrated? I strongly believe it is, and I made a post about this yesterday to try and gather some attention, but doing 3-minute reels, I think I got like, I don't know what the reach in the video is, got like less than 10 likes, right? That's just the nature of the fitness game. Now, if that was how to make £10,000, that would have flew through. But anyway, the whole topic of, is fat loss overrated? I want to do a longer podcast episode on this because there's a lot to talk about within it. Now, let's address something that I don't want to, like, don't be misconstrued that fat loss, like, we are living in a society, or living in an age where you go about your day-to-day life as expected, you go to the average work, you live the average lifestyle, and you do the average things that most people do for fun. You will start to gain weight, you'll start to gain body fat, visceral body fat, which is the not so good body fat, and your health and quality of life will start to deteriorate. As you gain more and more fat, right, you're more prone to a number of different health issues. It's a huge strain on the NHS, and it's the major talking point in fitness, right? The major talking point in fitness is how to lose weight, how to lose fat. I wouldn't even say the big conversation isn't even how to lose fat. It's just everyone's just so fixated on losing weight. And I understand that conversation does need to be addressed. We do need to find ways that people lose weight, but lose it and keep it off. Because people, like, you maybe add up the amount of friends and family who have lost weight over the years and then added it back on. It's crazy. In fact, the fail rate, or the pass rate on if you've ever heard of the show The Biggest Loser, I don't know if this still goes on in this day and age, but all those participants who compete in that, every single one of them gained the weight back within a couple of years. So this is obviously at the extreme end, and it's glorified for TV and reality TV and all that sort of stuff. But there's a 90% chance that if you lose the weight through traditional methods, you're most likely going to gain it back. And this is why products like Ozempic, Wegovy, etc., why these become more sought after, why there's so much money spent on it, and realistically, there's so many companies benefiting from this. There's so many companies becoming not 100 million, they're becoming billion, trillion dollar companies because they've created a product that's going to help people with their weight loss. Now, the conversation that I want to talk about today is weight loss isn't necessarily the issue, right? Addressing your weight loss or losing the weight doesn't fix the root cause. Think of like a bullet wound. It's like putting a plaster to stop the bleeding, but there's a bullet still wedged in your arm, right? We need to go in, remove the bullet, start to stitch up, and then put the bandage on it. That's the sort of analogy that I'm going to go with. You know, I'm fucking crazy for analogies on this podcast. I said one to my client the other day, and I can't remember what it was, because I said I'm going to say that in the podcast. It just came to my head. I can't remember. Anyway, the weight loss part is one piece of the pie, one piece of this kind of fitness, health, this overall healthier outlook on whatever it is you do for, or what you want to achieve from your life when it comes to fitness. In weight loss, I know there's so many of you guys that really struggle with the mentality around this, because you try things, you try different diets, you try different workouts, you try all these different things, and it works for a short period of time until it doesn't. So why does it not work? Well, I'll break down, not necessarily the science, but the most common processes is what's going on. But when we're working out, or when we're exercising, or when we're, let's kind of shift this just to losing weight or losing fat, that is a stress, that's an extreme stress on the body. To get into that process, your body needs to be burning more calories than you're consuming, or you need to consume less calories than what your body normally burns. So if we throw some wild numbers out there, if you consume 2,000 calories and you don't gain weight or lose weight, then that would be what your body needs to survive. That was what we refer to as homeostasis, and that's where you go about your day-to-day life. You have the same regular routine, you have the same energy levels, sometimes you have dips in it, that's a separate conversation, but ultimately that's what your body needs to keep ticking over. Now, you go into this fat loss or weight loss phase, that formula, the 2,000 calories, needs to be reduced, okay? So you either eat less or you increase the burn, okay? You increase the activity. So let's say you don't go to the gym and you start going to 3 spin classes a week or 3 HIIT workouts a week. Then your calorie burn on a 2,000 calorie basis most likely goes up because your body is using more energy, and the response initially is it starts to lose weight. It starts to tap into the extra fat that's on your body and uses that for the additional fuel to get you through those workouts. So the 2,000 calories that your body was burning before, let's say for talking's sake, it's 2,500. And you think, fucking jackpot, nailed it. Now, I'm saying spin classes, I'm saying HIIT classes, this can be anything. It can be running, it can be cycling. Just insert any cardio, high intensity, forget about lifting weights just now, but any sort of activity. That's what happens. Some activities burn more calories than others, yes, but here's where it gets interesting. A couple of weeks down the line, because that's such a stress on your body has to adapt, because it's in fight or flight. It's in a stressful state of going, shit, if we keep going down this path, we will die. Like, it's as literally as simple as that. The brain doesn't know whether you are controlled in that environment or whether tomorrow's going to be a different day. It's just adapting to the signals that you've been sending it. And that signal is, right, we need more fuel and we don't have fuel in our body. So we need to slow this process down, because if we keep carrying on like this, we're not going to have enough fuel to keep the brain going, to keep the organs functioning, and everything else that the body is capable of doing, right? So the adaptation is it slows the fat. It slows the process down of using that body fat. That's why you see what we call a plateau. So when you hit that plateau, you're like, okay, what do I do now? Right, I'm not seeing the weight loss that I initially got. they just go harder. And again, you see more weight and you see more weight. But here's what starts to happen as well. One of the most expensive tissues on our body that requires more nutrients and more fuel to keep active is muscle. And muscle isn't your Olympia, C-bum, jacked. Muscle is something that we all need, right? We all need lean body mass or lean muscle to feel strong, feel energized, sleep better, have a better quality of life, and so on and so forth. And more muscle to an extent for the average person, forget the bodybuilders just now, just if you kind of tackle this the right way, more muscle will increase your quality of life and higher chance of living longer with a better outcome for whatever life throws at you, from a number of different diseases to any all-causing mortality. Muscle is a proven statistic that will reduce that, in some cases by 20%, depending on the person, depending on the life-threatening circumstance, and so on, okay? Now, you go in this process, the 2,000 calories, and you're burning more than 2,000 calories. Your body slows down the fat burning, and it starts looking at other pieces of tissue of where it can break down and free up less calorie spend, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And that's what it does with muscle. It looks at muscle and says, right, the activity that person's doing, we don't need, there's no signal there to build muscle. So if they keep doing that, then that potential could be what we get rid of. And what happens? People do the spin classes, they work harder and harder and harder. And it's like, right, fuck, the body's got no choice at this point to go, right, fuck that muscle off. So it starts to pare down. And this is why some people get skinny fat, right? Skinny, I hate the fucking term, right? But for you guys that are listening, you'll understand what I'm saying with that. You end up losing weight in the scales, but you feel flabbier. You feel loose, like your skin's looser. And all of this is a byproduct of you losing the tissue that fills those areas out. Now, depending how much weight you lose, it's probably important addressing here that if you fall into the obese category or you fall into being a bigger individual, when you lose weight, your skin will be flabbier because it's been stretched out. But trust the process, because over time, that skin will tighten up. Some cases, it might lead to some sort of surgical intervention, but every sort of obese client that I've had in the past, we start to lose weight and they're like, yeah, I'm fucking losing weight pretty rapid here. But sometimes they feel bigger because the belly was like expanded out and it was tight, and we started to draw it in, and that loose skin is now sagging down the way. So don't worry if that's you a bit. For the most kind of general person that I'm trying to speak to here, that's what you've probably experienced before, or you know someone that's experienced before. Now, as I said, that happens when you burn more calories. That also happens if you eat less calories. And I would argue that it happens quicker if you're not doing anything activity-wise. So you hear people going on Herbalife, you hear people losing weight by just walking more. You hear all these fascinating stories, right? And at the end of the day, everyone's going to be different, but all that's happened there is one or two things, or sometimes both. And sometimes both definitely leads to a quicker decline in weight, but also a lot of that weight coming from muscle. And your job, or what you're looking for in this, is to lose the extra body fat and maintain as much muscle as you can, okay? So this is an important conversation to have, as I said. And this is why I'm kind of starting with this, because all we think about is losing weight. And all we think about is losing fat. And one thing we need to get rid of in this space is playing on your insecurity. So what do you see? Do this workout to burn these love handles. Do you have flabby arms? Then do this exercise. Are you sick of looking in the mirror and not being happy with yourself? Then eat this diet. Look what Beyonce did. Look what that insert celebrity is fucking. All that's doing is really good marketing that plays on your insecurity but doesn't fix the problem. Okay? I wouldn't have a problem with this if it geared you towards other methods that have a better success rate and a longer lifespan of the likelihood of you keeping it off. But they don't, because guess what? You need to see results. And if I can get you into the gym and I can get you into a session, I know if I do a high calorie burn session with you in one session, you're going to be lighter on the scales tomorrow. And then guess what? You're roped in. You're like, Dale knows the secret. I'm going to chuck all my money at him. I'm going to do whatever he says. I'm going to get into that. And this is for coaches listening as well. This is why my approach is different. I'm not saying that there isn't a need for fat loss coaches or body transformation coaches. There's different ways to go around that. Do your thing. Do whatever you feel most confident in your ability to see through. But the conversation still needs to lie with every individual that comes to you and is looking for this expectation to get this amazing transformation, that jumping straight into that phase sometimes might not be the best. And look, I've had to knock back a good few clients over the years where they want a transformation before their holiday, or they want a transformation for their wedding. And the handful of clients I took on for their wedding, I still managed to do it in a different way by setting the expectation. But it's a hard conversation, because if you look at any information online, it's here's the best ways to lose weight, here's the best ways to lose fat. And this is what this episode is going to be about. The best way to lose weight and lose fat is the one that's going to last the longest, right? It's the one that's going to outperform anything else. And I said this quote to a couple of guys that came into the studio, potentially wanted to work with us. Not had to say it in ages, and it almost was at the back of my mind, but I don't want to be defined as how good a coach I am for what I do in the next 5 to 10 weeks with you. I want to be defined of how your fitness and lifestyle is improved in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. That's to me, that sets a longer horizon, which means I'm not going to cut corners with you. We're going to address them. We're going to, like the bullet hole wound analogy, we're going to uncover where is the stepping stones needed, and how do we create a path towards you living a stronger and healthier and better quality of life. Because if you just stay in this fat loss cycle, staying in it, jumping out it, staying in it, going on holiday, back to it. If you just go yo-yoing back and forth, over time, you're going to lose muscle. Over time, you're going to lose energy. Over time, you're going to feel weaker. You're going to get chronic pain. Your sleep's then going to be affected, and you're going to be in a really, really shit state where you feel that every calorie that you eat, every calorie that you consume, you feel you gain weight on it. Because here's the last part of this conversation. We're going to move on to what I believe is the best strategy. Or what I would do, should I say. Back to the scenario, 2,000 calories, but you're burning more calories, okay? You're burning more. You're doing 3 spin classes a week, and we'll just stick with the HIIT classes, actually. You do 3 HIIT classes a week. You see the plateau. Your only option, go harder, go faster, do more. You do all 3. Before you know it, you're at 5 days a week of HIIT classes. Now, I don't care how motivated you are. Life's going to throw out shit where you're going to have an argument with someone, you're going to fall out with your best friend, you're going to fall out with your partner, you're going to have an argument in the family, you're going to have a shit day at work. And that's going to be hard to be in that mental frame of mind to show up to those classes. But let's say you do, right? Let's say you're just so committed to going to those classes. There's going to be a point in your life where you go on holiday, or you take the foot off the gas a little bit, right? Your body is so adapted to that lifestyle, or so adapted to that calorie burn, it's got so efficient at using those 2,000 calories that as soon as you eat more than that 2,000 calories, or burn less than whatever you're burning with those 5,000, those 5 workout days, your body starts to gain the weight back relatively quickly, because it doesn't know if you need that fuel. It starts storing the fuel rapid. So let's play this analogy out. 5 workouts, 12 weeks down the line, you're like, yes, fucking hit my weight in the scales. You look in the mirror, okay, you might have seen changes, you might be happy you've been down a few dress sizes, but you know, deep, if you have to truly ask yourself, deep in your mind, you know, I still don't feel good. I thought I'd feel better. And it's because of the approach that you've had. But putting that to the side, you then go, right, okay, I've lost the weight, let me go back to enjoying my life. Because it's weird how the frame of mind is working out isn't enjoy. It shouldn't be enjoyed. Working out is punishment. Working out is to beat my body up because of the bad things that I've done through the bad choices that I made. Who says it's bad, right? So you take your foot off the gas. And okay, maybe you keep 1 or 2 in a week. But you're like, fuck. Jump on the scales a couple of weeks down the line. Or you go on holiday, right? Common one is holidays. You go on holiday, you come back for holiday, you're like, holy shit, 7 kilos I've added on the scales. And again, a big part of this can be an overconsumption, because the strategies and the structure that you have in your homeland compared to when you go on holiday, you're drinking more, you're eating more, you're moving less. They're all a recipe of gaining weight, right? But let's just say you stick to your 2,000 calories while you're away. because you're not doing that activity, because your body's not burning those calories, it's still in the state where it thinks it's burning calories, and it'll store it as body fat. And as it stores it as body fat, it's expecting one point you're going to then start introducing the 5 workouts a week again. So it's going to keep doing that. And again, it does plateau, right? So there is, I say there's light, but there's not necessarily light, because you gain all the weight back and you're like, right, okay, I need to start working on those HIIT classes again. But this time when you go in to the initial HIIT class, or you try and reset the journey that you're doing there, your body remembers it. So it quickly adapts. It's not as slow to respond, because the slower it responds, the more body fat they use. So let's say you go down week one the first time around you lost 3 kilos, week 1 the second time around you lose half a kilo. You're like, shit, I need to go harder, I need to go faster, I need to do more. And what does that lead you to? It leads you to burning out. It leads you to building a bad relationship, because you then think, this doesn't work for me. And that's all because you're relying on the calorie burn. Now, this is the same for eating less calories. It's the same for doing both. The adaptation in that setting doesn't fix the root cause. It doesn't work on behaviours around food. It doesn't work on any behaviours around your lifestyle, because ultimately your lifestyle is a big dictator of why you've necessarily gained weight. Now, that's not, again, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It might be that you went from an active job to a desk job. That happened to me, and I gained something like 15 kilo at the age of 19, which was great, because I'm trying to add size on, but didn't realise a lot of that size was body fat, just in a change of my environment, a change in my circumstance. So addressing the lifestyle is where that needs to happen. Lifestyle can be broken down into many different things, but there has to be an element in the 4 key pillars, which, yeah, well, I guess let's do a separate in-depth episode on the 4 key pillars, but the main one would be hydration and recovery. Sleep, I guess, covers off a bit of recovery as well, but sleep is absolutely crucial. We need an element of exercising and strength training, and we need an element of nutrition or exercise, strength training and movement, and we need an element of nutrition. Those 4 pillars are the fundamental cornerstones of things that need to be addressed in that lifestyle factor. It's no supplements, it's no Wegovy, it's no what exercises are you doing. Like, they're all conversations to have at some point, but we just need to be doing something in those 4 key pillars. So you're sitting there thinking, but Dale, I still got body fat that I want to lose. I'm not happy in my skin. Right, okay, how do we go about this? Does this mean we just give up and we don't do anything? No. The approach I would take is a slower approach, but it's a better approach. Just because it's slower doesn't mean it's any less effective. Arguably, it's more effective, and this is what we do. We build strength and we build muscle. And we're going to go back to this scenario of the individual who has 2,000 calories. 2,000 calories, you don't gain weight. 2,000 calories, you don't lose weight. But this time, rather than going, I'm going to try and burn as many calories as I can and eat as little calories as I can, you're now going to go, right, I'm going to get stronger first. Let me get stronger, because if I get stronger, I'm going to build lean body mass, or lean muscle, should I say. And what I said earlier was, muscle is an expensive tissue on your body that requires more calories to keep it operating. So that means as you build muscle and as you build strength, your 2,000 calories, your body starts burning more, right? And then burning more and burning more on its own, just doing your day-to-day things. You have version 1, version 2 of you that goes and does a typical Monday. Version 1 has let's say half a kilo of less muscle than version 2. Version 2 operates better throughout that day. They have more energy, they have less chronic pain, they feel more confident, they have more strength, but most importantly, they are burning, well, not most importantly, but like one thing that's overlooked is they are burning more calories. Now, it's so subtle, but that builds up over time, and that builds up with more lean tissue, and that builds up a change in your body that you probably want from losing fat that you don't realise you can get just by addressing the exercise programming, just by addressing some sort of routine and structure that aids you towards building strength. We don't talk about burning calories, we don't do any of that. That is pillar 1. That is addressing one of the most important journeys in this. Now, food, if you keep eating like a dickhead and just full sending takeaways every single night, then of course you're going to still gain more weight. But in the version of doing that and strength training, or doing that and not doing anything, you're still better to strength train. strength train or resistance, right? Adding resistance into your life. Resistance training benefits every circumstance, every single circumstance. You like going to Pilates, then resistance training. Arguably, Pilates can be resistance training. You want to go climb hills, resistance training is going to keep your joints stronger, healthier, and being able to have the strength to climb those hills. You want to be a better cyclist, strength train. You want to be better at badminton, strength train. You want to be better at high rocks, resistance train. You want to be better at high rocks, strength training. It's fundamental. Better runner, strength training. Every single element of life, hopefully by now you're getting the picture. Okay, that kind of makes sense. If I build stronger joints, stronger tendons, a stronger resilient body, then no matter what it is I pursue, then I'm less likely to get injured or I'm less likely to fall over. Now, let's talk about strength training alone. Strength training, resistance training, it means the same thing. Your body's ability to get stronger, week over week, month over month, however it is that you want to measure this. Strength training or resistance training burns body weight too, right? You go into the gym, you do a 40-minute spin class. Arguably, that initial 40-minute spin class burned more calories than your strength training. But remember, we're not trying to burn calories. The goal here is to go in and send a signal to our body to build muscle and build strength. So by doing that, you're still moving more and your body's working harder than what it is without doing it, right? So the body still burns fat too. Now, as I said, there's a metabolism increase here. Now, you always talk about, my metabolism's just so broken or so slow. Yeah, that might be what you're labelling it as, but it's just doing what you've told it to do. Your metabolism slowed down because the methods of training that you've done before, high intensity and not fueling much. So your body has to respond by slowing that down or you will die. As I said, that's the fine line. You will not have enough fuel to get your brain working, get your blood flow going, get the nutrients circulating to all areas of your body, to your heart, to your lungs, like everything, like your liver function. That will kill you if it keeps going. Yeah, okay, let's just burn faster. Now, long-term health benefits here. As I said, you reduce all-cause of mortality, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, just lowering your risk of overall death. These benefits come from just strength training 1 to 2 times a week. And it's probably worth defining, what does strength training look like? It's going to be any form of resistance training. Personally, if you want to get the most out of it, I would stick to compounds. I would stick to barbells and dumbbells where it's not just one tiny muscle group working. So if you're in a machine, I'm not saying machines aren't important or cables aren't important. They're fantastic exercises. They're fantastic structures to have. But what I would say with it is keep that to a 30% part of your program and keep a majority of your program to these compound lists. They send the loudest signal. Imagine digging a hole. Machines and cables are like shaping the hole, right? It's like using a spoon or using a smoothing device to make sure the corners are round. The fucking big JCB digger to get that hole dug is your compounds. It's the loudest signal that you can get. There's another fucking mad analogy that probably makes sense. Probably doesn't make sense. So alongside doing this, another part that is very, very important to factor in is protein intake, right? You need to be consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, right? You're going to see different information. It goes from 0.7 to 1, or it goes from 1.8 to 2.2. Stick to a 1-to-1 ratio. It's just easier to do the math. If you weigh 100 kilos, 200 grams of protein. You weigh 60 kilos, 120 grams of protein. Okay, so the reason that's important is when you break everything down, when you break all this, like every molecule in your body, break that down, it comes as protein cells, right? And this is the one nutrient that we can't overlook. It's the one nutrient that we can't miss, because if we miss that, then our body's not going to respond in a healthy manner. Your skin, your hair, your nails, all your starts to break down. If you ever look at someone, you know, like they're deficient in protein, they're a wee bit more paler, which is ironic coming from me, but there's just not a healthy look to them, right? And a big part of that does come down to nutrition, but we'll do it, as I said, we'll do a separate episode on going into each one of these pillars. In fact, that'll be what I do after the next episode. I'll address the 4 pillars, because this one is ultimately addressing the strength training pillar, why we need to resistance train. Now, if you look at what happens when we have extra body fat, there is visceral body fat that's on us that's dangerous, because it's linked to the more visceral body fat you have, your higher chance of diseases, cancer, chronic diseases, life-threatening illnesses. That's all linked to this visceral body fat. Now, when you go into calorie deficit, it doesn't just target visceral body fat, it just targets everything. As I said, it targets muscle, it targets fat, and it does target visceral fat. Strength training, muscle building, or strength training and resistance training isolates that muscle building part and allows your body to specifically target more of the visceral body fat. Now, you still lose elements of everything, but that's why you see dramatic body composition changes when someone just lifts weights. Now, another part here is your bones, right? As we move into our 30s, ladies out there, this happens to you quicker than men, but your bones get weaker. And that's why fractures and breaks from simple falls can happen. One way to keep your bones strong and almost kind of reverse this process of osteoporosis is lifting weights. It's resistance training, because there's minerals, there's tendons, like everything that's around our body, moving our body through a plane of motion with resistance is a way to slow, as I said, is a way to slow that process down and in some cases reverse it. So how often should you strength training? Well, honestly, if you can only get in one day, then get in one day. Ideally, you're aiming for 3 to 4. But there's a big part of this where I said sometimes life's going to come and where you're going to go on holiday. Now, when you strength train, the signal's louder. And you go away for a week and you don't necessarily lose a lot by resistance training, because your body's not relying on a daily burn. You've built the tissue, you've built the muscle. If you don't work out, I think the average, the most recent study I was looking at, I'm pretty sure it's around the 21 to 27 day mark. If you don't do anything, that's when your body starts to pare down that muscle and say, right, we don't necessarily require that. So that's a good trade-off. Whereas with cardio and some high intensity workout, you miss one session, you feel it the next week. Like, it's so... But at the same time, you do one session, you feel better the next week. And it's the same with resistance training. Now, your squats, deadlifts, overhead press, doing it with dumbbells, doing variations of every movement pattern is the best solution. And you can put together a program yourself if you want, or if you've listened to the previous episode, you'll see the link below this video. The Bulletproof Strong 12-week workout programming is a strength training program that is 3 times per week that incorporates this lifts with phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, progressing you through that. So if you want that, then by all means, check that out. If you want to create your own, do the same thing. Listen to one of the previous episodes I've done on why following a structure is important to get more out of it. But at the end of the day, you just need to be bought into the goal that you have isn't necessarily to lose fat. That might be one of the stepping stones, but the goal that you have is to be healthier, to be fitter, and live a better quality of life for you and your loved ones. That's where the mindset needs to be shifted a little bit. And if you pursue strength and you pursue getting better inside the gym, working on your mobility, that will, along that journey, as you're pursuing that journey, that will box off, oh, I managed to lose some body fat here, managed to lose some weight, or maybe it's not about the weight anymore, I feel good. This was the feelings and expectations I was expecting to get once I lost weight. Scales, the weight on the scales doesn't matter. It generally doesn't matter. The weight in the scales combined with other metrics like how you're feeling, how you feel in clothes, how you look at yourself in front of the mirror are all, that's an objective marker, but they're all subjective feelings, right? And there's no method of training. Although these high intensity classes, you feel good because you've got a sweat on, but just because you're sweating more doesn't mean you're burning more calories. And as I said, hopefully this conversation breaks through that mindset of the goal isn't to burn more calories, because if you just keep burning more calories, you're just going to end up being skinnier and flabbier, and that's not really what you're chasing. So prioritizing strength and building muscle over losing fat is going to set yourself up for a healthier and stronger body for long-term success. If there's something that's going to give you more probability of losing weight and keeping the weight off for longer, it's going to be that method. Now, here's what it looks like at the start. You and your friend decides to do Herbalife and HIIT classes, but you decide to do strength training. Week 1, your friend's flying away from you, right? You imagine a horse race. Here we go, here's an analogy. You're horse 1, she's horse 2. He or she, doesn't matter who this is. She's out the gates, boom. She's 100 metres in front of you. Week 2, she's 200 metres in front of you. Week 3, she's 400 metres in front of you. Let's carry this on for 12 weeks. She's so far in front of you, you think, this is fucking shit. It's never going to be 12 weeks. I would say it's maybe about 8 weeks in where people start feeling the pain of doing the high intensity, and 8 weeks in where people start seeing a massive benefit because it compounds. Before you know it, let's say we're 10 weeks down the line, you're catching up, and then you sling so far in front because her process is starting to slow down, starting not to work anymore. You're going out for dinner and you're like, yeah, I'm eating more food. What do you mean you're eating more food? Do we need to eat less food? Yeah, but my goal is to build strength just now. I'll go into a fat loss phase at a future date, but right now I'm just going to work on building strength. And that's where this leads nicely on to the last part of this episode, which is, when do you do a fat loss phase? Well, you do it when you've reaped a bunch of rewards from strength training. I'd say if you've never given strength training a go, give it 6 months. At the minimum, try and give it 12 weeks. If you're too impatient with that sort of stuff, give it 12 weeks and watch what happens. Because as I said, in this time, it's not as like your body composition isn't going to change. It absolutely is. Your body composition will change for the better. But there is a need to do fat loss phases. As I said, it's a little segment, a little phase in this cycle of what it is we're trying to do. So once you've done that, you've set a good foundation. You've introduced something called reverse dieting, which I've done a previous episode in, but we'll cover that off in the nutrition pillar. But reverse dieting is just a fancy way of saying is you started on 2,000 calories, you built strength, you built muscle, your body needed more fuel to keep that tissue working and keep building that tissue, so your calories went from 2,000 to 2,500. You're now eating more food, you haven't necessarily lost weight, but your body composition has changed, your shape's looking different, you're feeling better, you're feeling stronger, but there's still maybe extra body fat that you want to lose. So for 4 weeks, what we do, we go from 2,500, we still keep the method, we still keep the strength training, we still keep the protein intake, but we drop down those calories a little bit for a short period of time. And in that short period of time, you've built up this roaring engine that can melt body fat off. Like literally have one of the best responses to any sort of fat loss phase that you've ever seen in your life. Because it's not necessarily too grueling, it's not necessarily too intense, it's just you dropping your calories a little bit and seeing how your body responds. And sometimes this is a hard hurdle to get over, because you might do this for 6 months and you've hammered your body over so many years of trying different diets and trying high intensity workouts that your body's so stubborn to lose the body fat. So you might do your first fat loss phase and not see much out of it, but that just means more time needs to be spent on fueling your body, hitting a higher metabolism, and so on and so forth. So that wraps up my episode on why focusing on resistance training and building muscle rather than focus on fat will actually make you lose more fat. So hopefully that makes sense. And as I said, if you want a structure, you want a program to follow, click the link below. We've got about, I think it's like 4 different people starting this from the day of release of this episode. So you'll be with other people that are along the same journey with you. And I'm going to come in with a little bit of coaching here and there. I'm going to coach those guys because by the time I've released this episode, you've missed the early bird offer, which was if you bought it before Sunday, I would be coaching everybody and walking everybody through. Fuck it, if you want this, you're listening to this episode, I'll do it for you as well if you sign up today at the point of listening to this episode. As I said, £12 a week, it's an absolute bargain. Alternatively, follow whatever you want, right? And if you listen to this podcast, you're bought into what I do, then if you want to trust me, then cool. One of the future episodes is going to be how you create a program as well. So yeah, I'll leave you with that one. Hopefully I've successfully passed the 100k, and if you want to support me, leave a 5-star rating on Spotify. I love you. I'll leave you. I'll see you guys on the next one.